But you came here for a different world, the world of vision, a world presented not by me, who sometimes forgets to use a microphone, a world presented by Alex Wong. So we're going to welcome him to the stage and get started on why you're all here today.
Thank you so much. I've never used a clicker before, so there might be some real-time learning going on, but I really appreciate y'all coming. It means a lot to me that you would come and choose to spend your time with me, and it's inspiring to be like in a room with other amazing creatives, and I want to just kind of just share my life and my process to the extent that it's useful to all you in your work, in your life. So my name is Alex Wong. I'm an artist and storyteller, creator. Right now my mediums are music and food. And by the way, thank you for asking me to do this. And when Creative Mornings contacted me and they gave me the word vision, I said yes before really thinking through what that meant. And so I thought more about, well, what is vision to me? And so I wanted to start, before I answer that, with a little context, so by way of introduction. So this is a video of kind of how I'm using vision in my life. And I think I'm supposed to press a button on here to make it go.
Who feels permission to take up space in the world? Why? My name is Alex Wong. I'm a musician, advocate, and chef living in Nashville, Tennessee. I've always been fascinated by this question, and it inspired me to create my latest project, Permission, part concept album and part multi-sensory live experience. Permission is an honest, personal, and at times uncomfortable look at my journey as a person of color, learning how to take up space in America. Growing up in the US as a second-generation Chinese American, I often struggled to feel permission to take up space. Racist attitudes embedded in American society saw me as a submissive, emasculated foreigner. Cultural values told me to stay small, keep my head down, and not make waves. TV and movies showed me that people who looked like me could be sidekicks, decorations, or punchlines, but we didn't have permission to take up space in the center of the room. These stereotypes manifested themselves physically. As a kid, when I would try to sing, my throat would constrict to prevent me from making too much noise. Instead, my voice would crack, and I would shrink even more from shame and embarrassment. Joining my first rock band at a time when Asians were a rarity in the American music industry, I quickly learned to downplay my cultural identity. I was even told point blank by a former manager not to appear too Asian, as it wouldn't be relatable to mainstream audiences. Ironically, it was a move to Nashville many years later, when I was often the only Asian body in the room, that made me finally notice how much of myself I had been hiding. There's a line from the new record that goes,
I miss the sound of my father's Chinese, fading in the suburban breeze.
It was one of the hardest lines I've ever written because it exposed an uncomfortable truth that I had been avoiding for much of my life. Growing up, I carried a lot of shame around losing my heritage to American culture, and at the same time felt a lot of pressure to assimilate. I felt like I occupied a space in between two cultures, not enough of one to be accepted by either. But if I continued to wait for their permission to take up space, I would be waiting forever. I started questioning the stereotypes I'd internalized, the rules I'd learned that kept me small, and even my own idea of what it meant to be Asian American. I knew I needed to claim that in-between space as my own. I explore these questions in real time throughout the songs on Permission. As I crafted the sonic world around the lyrics, looking for colors and textures that would tell the emotional stories, but let my voice take up space in the center for the first time, I found myself exploring another question. What can Asian American music sound like?
Trying to empower people to feel permission to take up space.
To bring the album to life, I created a multi-sensory live experience called the Permission Parties. Using food as an on-ramp to my cultural memory, I I created a 6-course dinner, pairing each song from the album with a Chinese-inspired dish that shares a common emotion. By sharing my journey, I hope to empower everyone, especially those in the margins, to feel permission to take up space with their stories.
Thanks. So that's a project I'm working on now, and it's a way that I am using vision in my work. And I kind of want to just already go off script here. I thought about how I define vision, and I thought, in my work, and the most kind of like functional definition for me is like being able for us to be able to see something in our head and pull it into the physical world. That's kind of like the most encompassing definition I could think of for vision. And I was actually curious before I go on just to hear anybody else's definition of vision, if anybody has one at the ready. I was just curious. No pressure, but I'm genuinely curious about how people define vision. So welcome to, go for it.
I think it's shepherding in what's emerging. So you're kind of bringing the present into the future. So.
Love that. I'm going to go rearrange my slides real quick.
Vision's like a word my mother always uses when you can see things that like aren't there. She's like, you can see how a room can come together, or like see how the best laid plans all like interlock. It's like not there. It's what you're manifesting to build off of that. So, yeah.
Hi, I think vision means to me, it means faith. So believing in things that you can't really see.
Faith, yeah, that's really, really good. Really important component, I think. Awesome. I should have consulted y'all before this presentation, but I agree with all of those. And I have been reading these books. Has anyone heard of the Abraham Hicks series? It's a very woo-woo series of, go with me here, channeled books. So there's a person who's sort of like a medium, and they are a vessel, and they're channeling an entity, a non-physical entity called Abraham, and they're basically transcribing these books. And they're whether I've lost you at that point or not, they're super interesting. And one thing that I take away from it is that they really talk about how thought is really our most powerful tool that we have, and everything that you see in our world originates from thought. So it's an idea. This chair was someone's idea. This floor, the material on the floor, this guitar, it's all starts in the thought realm, and somebody has pulled it into the physical realm. And I really love that, and I think about it all the time through my day, just even brushing my teeth, making a spreadsheet. All of these things are things that we visualize and then we execute. And I think we all have this amazing ability to do that. We all have this really powerful creative force and this ability to access our vision and just like manifest, like you said, things in the ether and pull them into real life. So I started there. And I also am a huge believer that everyone, our society loves to like divide and categorize people as creatives and non-creatives, and audience and performer. And I fully reject that idea. And I think we all are creatives. We all have that capacity. And so we all use vision in our own way. So I think it's something that is extremely useful, whether capitalism has defined your career as creative or not. In my work, speaking of capitalism, so make my living as a creator, as a songwriter and a record producer. And so I am really dependent on this idea of pulling stuff, making stuff from nothing, or going from 0 to 1, as some people say. And I have had to, over the years, like really codify a process around that, because it's really scary, and I have fallen into a lot of pitfalls where when you are now being paid to make stuff up, or somebody is expecting something at a certain time, a brilliant idea it's at 9 a.m. tomorrow or something like that, I found that I really needed tools to take the pressure off of this enormous, scary weight of like, okay, just make something up right now. And so I created sort of a tool set for myself that I hope that I want to share with y'all, and hopefully that will be useful. And it just reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Chuck Close, the artist, is inspiration is for amateurs, the rest of us just show up and get to work. And that has been really true in my work. Although I love it when inspiration and lightning strikes, it's not something that I can turn off and turn on exactly when I need it. It's like having that, it's like those superhero movies where they're like, come on, fly, and like they don't quite know how to like flex that muscle yet. And so I've had to build these stepping stones up to the lightning strike, so that I can kind of sneak up on it in a way. So my example of kind of a case study is this current project that I talked about in the video. So I'm a musician first and foremost, and I'm releasing a new record called Permission. And I really wanted to tell the stories of the album, which I have to do a lot with unpacking sort of cultural memory and identity questions and stuff like that, as I mentioned in the video. And I was really looking for a way to engage audiences with these stories on more than just one sensory input. And so I decided to combine a tasting menu and the album. So I created a dish, and I paired each dish with a track from the record, and they're connected through emotional parallels. And so the event is sort of like part tasting menu, part pop-up dinner, and part listening party, where we're sort of telling the stories from the album as the food comes out, and then playing the music as people eat the food and sort of absorb the music and the story together. And I had never heard of this being done. There was no real map for this. So it was something where I really had to use this toolbox to understand, like, okay, I have a very vague idea of this thing I want to do. Oh, and then I was like, oh yeah, and I want to tour it around the country and Europe. And so there was a lot of like inventing of the how that had to happen. There wasn't like, okay, well, here's the template for how to do this. We kind of had to start from zero and go, okay, well, if we're gonna travel with this thing, how do we do that? And there was just a lot of like little steps of problem solving that had to happen. But for me, I find that is always what I'm doing in my work, is like starting with this very vague goal and then figuring out the steps. And I think that's the first tool for me with vision, is to let yourself do that first process. So letting yourself come up with that goal and that dream, completely unencumbered with the how, has been really vital to me in that process, to be able to go, to just dream it out and just say, well, what if we like got this trailer, got a bunch of mobile cooking equipment, a mobile, PA system, decorations, and put it all in this really weird trailer that we got and drive it around the country. Oh, and we want it to be zero waste, so we have to get an electric car and we have to do and a compost and bring the stinky compost in the trailer the whole trip. So starting with this sort of like pie in the sky goal really helped me to like have a North Star for all the problem solving. And it allowed me to, I've worked in other organizations and other projects for myself where I'm like, all right, I've got $1,000. What can I do? And that is a very practical way of working. And I know that a lot of our society encourages us to work that way. However, I have found that immediately puts a box around what you want to do. And so now you're thinking about this $1,000 and you've created this frame around it and you're thinking, well, what can I do in this box? And it doesn't allow you to surprise yourself with solutions that are way out here and then come up with ways to make the budget work because you haven't allowed your brain to go there yet. So I'm going to go over these challenges and then I want to go over the sort of like the toolbox that I came up with. So for me, people talk about the term writer's block a lot, and I really relate that to challenges to vision. I think writer's block is another word for a lot of these things, and I think the number one thing that creates writer's block is the question of worthiness. Am I worthy to take up space with this idea? Am I worthy to show myself in this way and put myself in the world? And a lot of times for myself, when I've had writer's block, it's because I am afraid of someone not liking my idea. I'm afraid of my idea not being good enough. I'm afraid of my idea being wrong. I'm afraid of my, people laughing at me and not inviting me to the 7th grade birthday party or, was that TMI? No. But that's really like, if you can, drill down, I don't really believe in writer's block. I just believe in those barriers and removing those barriers of worthiness and the fears that stand in the way. That is, I think one thing when vision feels blurry or when it feels like you just can't see the thing you want. That is one thing that has stood in my way. So I would suggest to you to look at that first. Is there something emotionally blocking this from me from having this vision that I want to have? Do I feel like worthy of taking up space in the world with this vision, even if other people don't align with it or other people don't get it? The second thing that I find is challenging is related to that, but is not having that destination, that North Star, clearly defined. I mean, I think that the word vision is literally about being able to see, visualize that thing. And when that thing is fuzzy, the path to it is really fuzzy. And when I have had confusion or trouble figuring out the path, it's often because I have not really defined that thing to its fullest potential. So I would really recommend for you, if this, in any line of work, whether you're a painter, whether you're making a shoe, whether you're coming up with a policy proposal, to kind of let yourself have at least stage one of this super dreamy, give yourself, fill your bank account with $50 trillion, let yourself have every resource at your disposal, and then like build the thing in your mind with all of that stuff. And then look at it and like sit with it and marvel at the thing you built, and then start to break it down, backtrack from that thing. How could I get to that thing, instead of like, there's no way. I personally believe that there is always a way to get to that thing. But if you can allow yourself to at least go through that first phase, nobody even has to know. It's all up here. Nobody has to, there's not even an opportunity for anyone to make fun of you, to reject your idea or anything. You can do that all in your head. Anyway, and I would say the same thing goes with, time is also a limitation. So when you're creating this idea, just letting yourself just go nuts. And then, another limitation that I feel is often time. And so time is a product of the physical world, that we're trying to pull this idea that exists in this ether into this physical world, that we contend with things like gravity, and we contend with things like a linear perception of the movement of time. And so, time is often something that I run up against, because my vision sometimes would be great if I had 20 years to execute it. And usually I have like a week. So we need a tool to get around the limitations of time. So here are some tools that I will share to get around some of these challenges. So the first one I find is the challenge of paralysis. The tool, the feeling of like, okay, well, first of all, the challenge of I'm looking at a blank page and I see nothing. For that, I think what we talked about before, like worthiness and allowing yourself to just go nuts with the unlimited budget, the unlimited resources, allowing yourself to just wander sometimes works, but sometimes we're not quite there, or we're stressed, or we're distracted. And the pressure of like even the language around creating, it's like, God created the earth, or I'm not a religious person, but I think the quote is something like that, in 7 days, and then it's like, okay, that's pretty ambitious. And so the language we use around creation is very like, it's very weighty, and I think we need to find ways around that. And so something that I like to do is I call it sneaking up on the muse. I like to find ways to trick myself into creating without knowing that I've created something. I want to lead us through some exercises later to show you kind of like how I do that. But I have done some, I remember this book I read a long time ago. It's like an improv theater book, which is not anywhere in my field, but it's a book that was very impactful for me, because one part of it talked about how actors start a scene. And they talked about this exercise that you could do with another person, where you sit with another person and you have one person close their eyes, and the other person asks them questions. And they say, okay, you're in a house. Look straight ahead. What's on the wall? And well, okay, so maybe there's pictures. All right, well, what's the frame around the picture made out of? How many pictures are there? Who's in the pictures? Are they photographs? Are they paintings? What is it? And so the person is describing what they're seeing in their mind's eye. And they say, okay, turn to the left. What's in the room to your left? And so this person is describing all of the stuff in this house. And all of a sudden they realize that they've just made up this house, and they've made up everything in the house. And they created it. And they did it in a process that was a little sneaky, because they were just describing something. And so I think about that a lot. That exercise actually led to an entire band of mine in the past called The Paper Raincoat. And the whole album was based on the characters that I saw inside this house. And so I really found it was an effective way to trick myself into making stuff up. So there's a couple exercises that I use for that I'll share with you in a second. Another tool that I like to do is to define, if you're having trouble defining the thing, can you define all the stuff that's not the thing? So anyway, I have an exercise that I use to do that. But the more stuff that you can say that it isn't, sometimes that also helps you get to the thing that it is. Another tool that I use is, we've already gone woo-woo, so I'm just going to keep going woo-woo. I produced my last record before this most recent one. I self-produced, and I've kind of self-produced most of my work up to now, and it can be torturous, this process. I make a living as a producer for other artists, and that is very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's natural for me to know how to converse and to draw out the vision of another person, another human standing there. But when I am the human standing there and going through all of things that an artist goes through in the studio, which is like, crushing doubt and insecurity and, lying on the floor in fetal position. And it's hard to then also produce yourself when you are completely in this state of, rawness and vulnerability and you're paralyzed with your fear because, music is very vulnerable and it's a vulnerable space to be in. So I started to trick myself, and I'm glad that nobody was around to witness this, but I had to literally break my personality into two parts. I divided myself into my producer self and my artist self. And I even named my producer self, his name is Blue. And I had out loud conversations with Blue where I must have sounded absolutely nuts, but I would talk out loud and I would tell Blue all the things I was scared of, and I would just talk as if I was the artist, and then I could switch into that role that I was familiar with as a producer and answer myself. And I had to do it out loud. For some reason, it didn't work when I had it in my head. I had to say these things out loud. So when I started to do that, I started realizing, okay, Blue is real. Blue exists. And I started to feel like, okay, Blue might be, if you believe in your higher self or your non-physical self, maybe Blue is that person for me, that part of myself. And so I started to talk more to Blue, just day-to-day stuff, just getting lunch, whatever. And the more he became physical, and I even kind of imagined a physical, body for Blue and all of this stuff. He's like a giant 8 foot tall, actually light blue skinned, weird, Prometheus looking dude. Neither here nor there. But as I started to physicalize Blue, it became easier to do this, and then I could call on Blue in these moments, and he'd be there, and so I would have this conversation, and a lot of that conversation has to do with listening. So when I'm trying to come up with a string arrangement or a melody or something like that, it can be really difficult when you're feeling that pressure of okay, I gotta make this up. I gotta make this up from nothing. And so I started to get into this process where I would have this conversation, and I would listen, and I would listen to Blue, and then I would try to transcribe what Blue said to do. And I would do it. I'd get maybe a couple bars, and then I'd get stuck. And so then I would stop and I would listen again, and I would transcribe again. And so I think for me, tricking myself into basically listening and just copying down, or this act of transcribing, took off some of this pressure for me to make it up. And somehow I'm able to like get through whole arrangements with this process because if you are able to quiet down and listen, usually something is there, and usually there is something that's coming through the channel that you can grab and pull. I mean, it might be by bit, but you can pull it into the real world, and it's something that takes practice, and it's a process that I continually practice doing, but it is something that's really helped me. And then the last part of vision is, I think a vision remains a vision in your head until you can execute it. And execution is really like, that's where so much of the value of ideas are. I mean, ideas are amazing, but I would take, an executed idea over a idea in someone's head any day. And execution is hard. Execution, you have to deal with time. You have to deal with all those boring things like resources and money and skills. And so the thing that my biggest tool for executing crazy ideas is to collaborate. And collaboration could be its own Creative Mornings topic for sure. I feel like a lot of my career I've learned the right ways for me to collaborate, and I've also learned the wrong ways to collaborate. I've been in situations where a collaboration has felt really inspiring, and I've been thriving in the collaboration, and others where it's been really stifling and has maybe felt like a crutch. And so I've had to learn, like, it's not just collaboration, but finding the right type of collaboration, the right collaborators for those projects, and being clear. I wouldn't tell you what's right for y'all, but like, not every project needs the same kind of collaborator. I might have a very clear vision, and I need someone to help me execute that vision, and that's one kind of collaborator. Or I might not have a clear vision and need someone to come in and really help me sketch out this idea, and that's a totally different kind of collaborator. And when those things are mixed up, it can get really complicated and sometimes really hard. So collaborators with caveats, which are, defining the framework, defining the roles around the collaborators, and and when you find those people where your roles and your skills are complementary, that's where magic happens, and that's where you can build the crazy shit and make the stuff that you could never make on your own. And case in point, I wanted to bring in one of my best collaborators. She's such a good collaborator that I married her. But this is Leah Light, everyone. Leah is a badass, and sometimes I just wonder why she's agreeing to work on my weird projects. And she actually, the previous slide from Turnip Green, she was the executive director at Turnip Green for 7 years, and she built the organization from the ground up. And so she came with a lot of skills, and a lot of skills that I did not and do not have, especially around spreadsheets. So I wanted to invite her today to talk a little bit about how she collaborates and her role in execution.
The random baby on the screen isn't so random. That's our daughter August, who is our other collaborator, and Alex gave her the label the Vibe Girl, which I loved. I'll try to be pretty quick, but thanks, Alex. That was a really nice introduction, and I love you. But as he mentioned, I was the executive director of Turnip Green, so it was really awesome to see that slide. Thanks for sharing the good work. I am an artist, and I am a major collaborator. I feel like I use a lot of my creativity to really help build build that scaffolding for visionaries like Alex to help bring their projects to life. I find a lot of joy in that. It's really exciting to me. So I just have a few things that I wanted to share that maybe you all already know. You can take it or leave it, but this is really what works well for Alex and I and for other artists I work with, and specifically with the permission parties, since he's using that as a case study for this presentation. But yeah, a little bit more about me. I'm on the board of Arts at the Airport. I used to be a public school art teacher, and I grew up communally on a place called the Piney Compound, which could probably also be its whole other presentation. But I was raised by 15 to 25 very, very creative, visionary people from the time I was 2 to 18 years old. So I'm super familiar with working alongside and supporting artists and just kind of finding my place in the arts ecosystem. So that's like what has led me to do the work that I do today with supporting artists in their projects. And I just love creating those roadmaps, but I've learned a few things on the way, and a lot of it does overlap with what Alex has already shared. But I think that the number one thing for me is there has to be that value alignment, right? Like, I have taken on way too many projects than I care to admit because, like, oh, the money is so good, or oh, it's like this person with this big name. But I always just end up feeling so, like, does anyone identify with this? You like feel that sick, draining feeling, and then it doesn't work out for you or the person, and you're like, why did we do this? So I think just trying to remember that lesson of thinking about the North Star that Alex has referenced, or that, you know, whoever you are working with, making sure there is alignment there. The tool that I continually use, does anyone ever do value card sorts? Has it? It's. I love that, Jackie. You and I know that we're the same Enneagram and wing and everything. Like, you're like, yeah. So a value card sort is a really simple, quick exercise. You can Google it and do it for free. Super easy, but it just kind of helps you stay in check with yourself and like remember what your key values are at whatever stage you're at in life. And mine change often, but one of them that's been coming up, especially since I've been with Alex, is joy, which I really like. And I think that Alex's projects always make me feel joy. Whenever he's like, I've got this crazy idea. I've been up there talking to Blue. And I'm like, okay, what do we got? I just feel that in my body. And it is so polar opposite of that draining feeling. And so that's how I know, okay, we're going forward. I would love to partner with you on this. And I just think that's an important lesson. And this kind of bleeds into the next one, but with motivation. I think Alex in particular looks at me and treats me like more than just an executor. Like, he's not that boss who's like, okay, here's my idea, do it. Like, he really does motivate me. And some specific questions that he will ask me is like, are you feeling heard? Are things clear? So I think if you're working with someone or if you're supporting a visionary, like, those are really helpful questions that have worked for us in moving forward in our process. Because a lot of times, think about like in relationships of any sort, like professional or personal, like where you get off track is maybe things aren't clear, right? So just providing those feedback loops, I think, has been so helpful. It makes me feel heard and super motivated and makes me want to do a better job. The clarity and roles and responsibilities, I think one thing that we've done that's really helpful for us, because you may be able to tell immediately, like, he is very dreamy artist, and I'm like, okay, how are we gonna get this done? So sometimes, like, those can work really well together if you set up a solid framework. One thing that we've done that I think has been just phenomenal for our progress for the permission parties and other projects is we say before a meeting, is this a dream meeting or is this an action meeting? I'm gonna go into action mode always, and then that can turn into those limiters that would crush his artist spirit. So we have to name those, separate them out, and like, that's been the game changer, I think, for us. I don't know if you would agree, but I found that very helpful. The third thing, and I'm sorry, like, if this feels so lame and corporate-y, but I really do like using SMARTY goals. So I like things to be specific and measurable and attainable and relevant and time bound and also inclusive and equitable, because I think Alex and I are so value aligned. We met in a racial equity cohort. So we have to add the IE to the SMARTY goals because we want to make sure everything we're doing is accessible to a wide community. We never want to be limiters in who gets to experience his art. So I have worked over the years to create like my own crazy system for how I track those. And it's really like, I use Monday.com, but a tool is just a tool. I think the most important thing is if it's you working on the project or if you're collaborating with someone, you have to find the tool that works for you and like be really disciplined about staying on top of it. This just happens to help me and us create like that successful scaffolding and make sure we're staying on track with our goals. But anyways, those are my little tidbits. Hopefully something resonated, but thank you for having me. I really appreciate you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't expect this to feel like so much like a PowerPoint presentation. So I want to stay in the woo-woo space a little bit longer. And just walk you through like a concrete exercise that I use, because I think sometimes this stuff, it's like people are like, yeah, just do that. And you walk out of here and you're like, okay, not sure what I gained from all that. So I want to take you through an exercise that I do. This picture is from my studio in East Nashville, and all the walls I painted with chalkboard paint. And so when I start a record with an artist, I have this process, which is a lot of talking, and there's a purpose to it. And the purpose, in my mind, is that we are sneaking up on the muse right now. But the exercise that I'm leading us through is, people come and they're like, all right, I got this batch of songs. What do we need? What kind of band do we want to get? What kind of studio should we get? What mics do we use? And usually my job in the beginning is to be like, okay, hold up. Let's peel it back a little bit. And I just want to know why do these songs exist? Why, or if they haven't fully written all the songs and that's what we're supposed to do, why do you feel like these songs or this record needs to exist in the world? Why does it need to be here as opposed to not be here? Who is this for? So I go through a bunch of questions. I ask them, and I try to say, all right, I know we're both super music nerdy people, and that's great, but I want to see if we can describe all the stuff in music without using any music words. And so I will say, all right, so you want to make this thing. You've come to me because something in you has told you that this thing needs to exist. All right, why? Who are you making it for? We'll start there. Who do you imagine listening to this record when it's done? Is it, when you close your eyes, is it one person listening to it on headphones in their bedroom? Is it a bunch of people at a party listening to it? Is it a few friends in their car driving down PCH listening to it? Are the windows down? Are the windows up? Is it summer? Are they driving in the morning? Are they driving at night? Is it sunset? What are they looking at? We go through all of this stuff. Where, if you imagine this perfect person getting the most value from this record, where are they? Are they walking through New York City alone on these great headphones, looking at everything, having main character syndrome, like dreaming about their ambitions in their life? Are they in spin class? Are they getting ready to go to the club? Like, what are they? All of these things are important, and so we just start to collect words on the walls, and all of these things. Not only is it defining what it is, but it's also defining what this record doesn't have to be. Because the worst thing, modern music making is amazing, and it's a miracle that we're able to do what we can do now. But you literally could do you literally have every sound in the world at your disposal, and you could do anything you want. And that can be very paralyzing, and it also can be very muddling to communicate a vision when you have literally every tool at your disposal. So what we're trying to do is carve out what it is and what it's not. So, I'll say, what are some things that feel like this record, like this plant here? They might say, well, I want the music to kind of feel like this fiddle plant? Fiddle fern. The way that the leaves are rough, but they're vibrant, and the shape of it. I love this furry pillow on the couch. I want part of the song to feel like this furry pillow. All right, so we'll just start to write furry pillow, fiddle fern, dark green, sea foam, all the stuff on this board, and we'll fill up the entire room with words. And when you get enough words on the walls, you can start to see things that start to group into themes. And that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to start to tease out the through lines, because they're there. It's just a matter of letting them emerge without having to define them in the beginning. So this process for me really helps draw those things out. So I kind of want to just see if we could just walk through a sample of this. So if we were to write a song this morning about this meeting, I want to start to and so when I say that, I want it to be the collective intention of the temperature, emotional temperature of where we all are. We're going to write a song about this experience together. So I would start by saying, all right, what are you feeling? And we would throw words on the wall. So I think we're going to try to do that now, if my collaborator wouldn't mind. So I'd love to hear what you're all, what's going on? What are you feeling right now? It can be, what are you feeling physically? Oh, I'm feeling a little warm and jacked up from the coffee. Maybe it's distracted. Maybe it's, I'm feeling melancholy. Maybe it's really excited. All of those things. So we're gonna just start grabbing words. Go ahead and just shout out anything. Cozy. Tuned in. Inspired. Imaginative. Curious. Good. Ready? Ready. What colors are you feeling right now? Definitely green. Green. We didn't even plan this.
I know.
Orange.
Yellow.
Yellow. If you could reach out and touch this song that we're making, what would it feel like? Would it feel like cold metal? Would it feel like a dog? Would it feel like a hot stove? Would it feel like a refrigerator? Would it feel like cold sea air? Morning grass. Morning grass. Cold water. Is the water still? Is it running? Is it a waterfall? A faucet. Is it full blast or is it dripping? Medium blast. Tingly. Suede. S-U-E-D-E, yeah.
Specifically a slouchy.
If you could taste this song, what would it taste like? What would it feel like in your mouth? Would it be crunchy? Would it have a crunchy outside and a soft inside? Warm bread.
Was that Jen?
Do all your songs sound like warm bread, Jen? Oh my gosh. Hold on, is it crusty bread? Are we talking about crusty, crunch, and then soft? Homemade sourdough. Okay. Are we eating a big chunk or a slice, or like taking the whole loaf and going for it?
I feel like it's already sliced, so we'll just make a little piece of it.
Ooh, okay. Sliced, warm. Are you biting a part that has the crunchy crust or just the soft middle?
Yeah, the corner piece.
Corner piece
Everything. You get just enough crust.
with some honey. Okay, okay. What does it sound like?
Depends on how close you are to me.
What is it? What is the room that you're in? Are you in a room when you're eating this? Are you outside? Are you at the beach? Are you at a picnic?
The farmhouse kitchen.
You're at the farmhouse kitchen. I love it. What does the air feel like in that room? What does it smell like in that room? Oh my gosh. Loving this place. What time of day is it? Golden hour in a farmhouse kitchen with a cozy fireplace. All right, well, these are awesome. Thank you guys. I will give you a little round of applause here. So imagine, we filled up the walls with probably, 5 to 10 times as many words. And now we're looking at these words, and I want to start to see some patterns. So for me, I'm seeing patterns here with these colors and golden hour, farmhouse kitchen, cozy fireplace, morning grass. Like, I'm starting to see this scene, right? You're starting to see this like place, and it's like a time and a place, and you're starting to feel viscerally, this is very organic. This is like, I see nature, I see wood, I see soft light, I see warmth, I see comfort, curiosity. I see this expanding, I see safety. And so I am starting to feel these things in my body, and I'm thinking about now, because my medium is music, but this can be any medium. But for me, I would go, okay, well, how do I say that with music? And so because that's the language I speak, I can go, all right, well, I'm going to say, I'm going to start with the preposition that the palette of instruments might be more of an organic palette. It might be more acoustic instruments. It might be more things that feel like air moving through a room, like the sounds created by vibrations, the sounds created by hitting wooden things or wooden instruments, as opposed to looking at this and saying, all right, I'm going to go to my synth rack and start with this insane techno beat or this so I've already determined some things that it's not. I've already determined that I'm not going to go to my synth rack. I've determined I'm not going to go into my plugins and pull up some crazy outer space sounds or anything like that. I've started to create a palette, and so I am using this as my North Star, and I'm thinking about blue, yellow, yellow, green, orange. I'm seeing these colors. All right, what instruments to me and what melodies and what tempos evoke those colors to me. So I would say I'm not going to go at 180 BPM here. I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to look at something that feels that makes me feel these things. So that to me, in terms of tempo, would be, I would go, okay, I'm feeling those feelings about here. And so maybe that's a place to start. And so then I would say, well, what else? Okay, curious. Well, how could I feel that with music, And I would say that to me, a gesture in music that would create that feeling might be something that feels expanding, might feel ascending, might be a progression, a chord progression an ascending chord progression or something like that, as opposed to something that is all one chord, building a song on one chord. I would eliminate that, and I would say, all right, yeah, I'd like to explore a progression that makes me feel like that, like rising, like curiosity, like inspiration, like ready. And then I would think, okay, yeah, I love that feeling of anticipation, readiness, excitement. How can I infuse that into the melody, or maybe into the way that the chords are played? Do I want to play them? Here, we'll just do this experiment real fast, right? So, okay. So in my head, I might be thinking of this progression that feels, very, rising to me. So I'm like, I don't know, that makes me feel those things. And instead of playing them like this, this feels a little more like those words. So that's how I would start this process. And I would just start to keep checking back to the words, going back to the thing, building a little more, asking myself, does it connect to those words? And so I think you could use this for any medium that you work in, even if it's building PowerPoint presentations. And so that I just wanted to share that with you. And I think we're pretty much out of time. Do I have time to play I wanted to end with a song to send you into the world with. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm sorry I talked so long. Here is a song that feels How do you fight for your heart when they tell you it's too late to start? How do you blow up a life that you've built? If you want to, you will. If you want to, you will. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.